Here is the 2014 to 2018 Kia Forte. Before we get started though, let me give a quick shout out to Naya Motors Inc. for letting us use the car today to film the video. They are a used car dealer here in Ottawa, Canada. Check out the link in description for their entire inventory. Now let's go ahead and open the driver's side door. Right over there is the primary hood release lever. Pull it. Now in front of the vehicle, right on top of the Kia emblem there, put one finger in there and then push it left like that. While you're pushing it left, lift up the hood. This hood requires a prop rod to keep it in place, so grab the rod and put it in that slot over there with the arrow marking it. Then slide it left and let it go. We'll be checking all the different fluids in this car, starting with the windshield washer fluid, then the engine oil, then the coolant, and then finally the brake fluid. There is no transmission fluid dipstick or viewport. Also, there is no power steering fluid to worry about because this is an electric power steering system. That reservoir over there with the blue cap, it even says it on it. Washer only, that's where the windshield washer fluid goes. To get an idea of how much fluid is in there, you just have to sort of look at the side of the reservoir and you'll see the fluid in there. Flip the lid open, that's where the fluid goes. Now you could put water in there if you like, it's up to you, but I suggest putting windshield washer fluid because even in summer the windshield washer fluid has detergents in it that just helps clean it better. Now in the winter though, if you live in a place where it goes below freezing, do not put water because water is going to freeze, become ice and expand and cause all sorts of issues. So put the proper windshield washer fluid if you live in a place where it goes below freezing. Also remember that this is chemical, so do not let children near it and read all the warning labels over there. And you will notice that these bottles tend to come with a safety cap on it. So you either have to push it down and then twist it left or squish it and twist it left like this one. These bottles also tend to have a safety seal on it, so take it off completely to avoid any unnecessary spillage. Hold the bottle the way I'm holding, one hand on the top and one on the bottom. The bottom hand is used to control the fluid flow so there's less spillage. Start filling it up, and as we fill up the fluid we will keep an eye out on the fluid level. As you see it rising, sort of slow down, fill it up all the way to the top, and then when you're done don't forget to put the lid back on, put the cap back on the bottle, and that's it.
Now the engine oil is the most important fluid in your car. Without engine oil, your engine's gone, it's seized up. Alright, and that's a major problem. So the easiest thing you can do to make sure your engine lasts a long time is to make sure that it has proper engine oil in it, the proper quantity and the proper type of engine oil in it at all times. Alright, so you definitely want to check your engine oil at least once a month. Don't wait for that warning indicator light to come on your dash. By the time it comes on, it's too late, and if you're in the middle of nowhere, you may not even have a way to go get new engine oil and top it off. So just check your engine oil level once a month at least. Now the reason why the engine oil is so important is because if you open up that engine, you will find there's hundreds of small pieces which are so close together, working at high speeds, under high temperature, and they just keep on going on for such a long time. And the only thing that prevents the metal parts from rubbing against each other is the engine oil. Alright, so that's the one thing you definitely want to make sure you are in good shape.
That right over there, the yellow dipstick, that's the one for the engine oil, even says it on it, and that's where you add the oil from. Before we add the oil, we need to check the level, and when you're checking the level, the engine has to be warm, because as the engine heats up, the oil heats up and it expands, so you want to make sure you get the correct reading. Also, the car has to be on like a level ground, not on a sloped driveway. That won't work. Like a level ground like this, and you'll need a piece of rag to wipe the oil off the dipstick. So let's go ahead and pull the dipstick out. We're gonna pull it out with the two fingers like that. Just pull it out straight, it comes out, and wipe the oil off the dipstick, put it back in and get a fresh reading. But before we put it back in, let's take a closer look at the dipstick. Now right there, let's pause right there. You see there are two markings on it. The L is for minimum. You don't want the oil level to be below that because that means there's not enough oil in the engine and that's not good. And you don't want it to be above F or maximum either because that leads to a whole different set of issues. So you want it to be between low and full. It has to be between minimum and maximum. So now that we know that, let's put the dipstick all the way back in and pull it out and get a fresh reading over here. Now in this case, the oil was just changed very recently, so the engine oil is very clear, but I'm sure you can see that right below the F mark, you see it's wet between L and F, but above F it's dry. So oil level is right below maximum, and that's good. That's what you want. If you have to top up oil, it takes about 1 quart, about 1 liter of oil to go from L to F. Let's just put the dipstick back in all the way. If you have to top up oil though, make sure you only top up gradually. So you add some oil, then you check the fluid level, then you add some more and you check the fluid level, and so on and so forth. So that way you make sure you don't end up overfilling the oil, because it requires way too much work to take off oil if you overfilled it. And you need SAE 5W20, just like it should say on the bottle right there, 5W20. That's the oil you need. If you can't find 5W, you could put 0W in the car, that's fine, but the 20 part should be matching. And often these bottles have like a transparent side on the side, so you can see how much oil is in there, and also have like a gauge, so you know how much oil is in there initially and how much you added. Twist this oil cap left. You'll require 2 fingers to do it. It's kind of hard, but it comes off, and that's it. That's where you fill up the oil in. And once you're done, put the oil cap back on as such and start twisting it right. And when you tighten it, you gotta tighten it to like 1 click. Yep, that's it. That is good. That's pretty much it.
Now what happens is when the engine is running, it just produces heat, right? It's burning fuel, so it gets hot. Now you want the engine to be warm, but you don't want it to overheat, because if it overheats, then it just causes all sorts of problems, so you don't want any of that to happen. Now that's where the coolant comes in, because what the coolant does is the coolant circulates within the engine, it collects all the heat, and now the hot coolant, it goes to the radiator, it cools off, and comes back in, collects more heat, goes back to the radiator, cools off, comes back in. The cycle keeps on repeating again and again. However, in this whole system, what you need is an expansion tank, because the coolant itself, as it heats up, it's going to expand. And as the name suggests, you need an expansion tank where this extra coolant can sort of just go temporarily, and then it can come back to the main cooling system. And that's what you need an expansion tank for.
Now that is the radiator pressure cap. It even says it on it to not open it when it's hot. In fact, you have no need to open it at all. But definitely don't open it when it's hot, because there's going to be hot coolant and that's going to harm you, and it's very dangerous, so don't play with it. Just follow the line over there. It takes you to the coolant expansion tank. It even says it on it, coolant. That's where you add the coolant from. Well, first let's just check the level of coolant in there. Now you see there are 2 markings on the coolant expansion tank. F is full or maximum and low is lower minimum. Also, you should be only checking the coolant when the car is cold, which means the car has been sitting for at least 3-4 hours. Or else the coolant's going to be hot and expanded and you'll get a false reading, and you don't want that. Now, if you're not able to get a clear reading, what you could do is you could sort of rock the car back and forth like I'm doing over here, and then you'll see the fluid inside slosh, and then you'll be able to get a better view. If you have to top off coolant, get one of this 50-50 mix, which is ready to use. You don't have to add any water, any diluted water, nothing. You can just use it the way it is. So Preston is a good brand. And another option for that is to use the Preston Max, which is designed specifically for Asian vehicles. Says it right there on it. Read all the warnings on it, and do not let children near it.
Now the way the brake system works is you got 3 main components to it. You got the brake pedal, you got the brake fluid, and then you got the actual brakes. The only thing that connects your brake pedal to the brakes is the brake fluid. So obviously it's very important. Now if you want to make sure that it's in good condition and that there is enough of brake fluid. The problem with brake fluid is that it's hygroscopic, meaning it just loves moisture. The moment you expose brake fluid to the atmosphere, it's just going to absorb all the moisture out of the air. And that's the problem, because you do not want brake fluid and moisture to be mixed together, because that makes it unpredictable. And when that does happen, your brake pedal now starts feeling spongy and mushy, and the car takes longer distances to stop, so that's not good. If it does happen that you left the cap off for more than 15-20 minutes, what I strongly suggest you do is you take your car to a mechanic. They have a device that can measure the moisture content in the brake fluid, and they can tell you if you're okay or if you need to get your brake fluid flushed out. And if you do need to get it flushed out, that's one place you do not want to cheap out on. So definitely just get it done if you have to get it done. It is what it is. The brake system is sealed off, right? So it doesn't really consume brake fluid on a daily basis. So it's not like you have to top it off every now and then. The reason why you may notice a change in the brake fluid level though is that one, either there's a leak in your system which is serious and you definitely want to get that checked out, or two, your brake pads are worn down. So what happens is when you get new brake pads, they're thick. Over time though, they get worn down and they get thinner. And now in order to compensate for the thinner pads, the worn down pads, the brake system takes some of the fluid out of the reservoir and into the actual brake lines. So that may cause the level to go down in the reservoir. Alright? So those are the two reasons, and if you do have to top it off, I'll show you how to do it.
Now that's the brake fluid reservoir right over there. To get an idea of the brake fluid level, look at it on the side. There are 2 markings, max and min. The fluid level should be between the max and min level. If you're not able to get a clear view though, what you could do is try moving the fluid reservoir, try wiggling it, and you'll see the fluid inside slosh. Now it says it right there on it, dot 3 or dot 4, that's the type of brake fluid you need, and that's what it should say on the brake fluid bottle as well, dot 3 or dot 4. If you have to top it off, what you could do is first open up that port on the top. Yeah, that's it. You need it because otherwise there's no way for you to sort of put the bottle on and put fluid in the reservoir without spilling it all over the place. So just pry that view port, that fill port open like that. There it is. Unscrew this, and now you can fill it up from the top over here. Once you're done, right away put the cap back on and screw it tight. That's good. And then put this fill port back in its place. It's gonna take a few seconds, so just be patient with it. And that is good.
Now the transmission fluid. I'm sure you're probably wondering where the transmission fluid dipstick is. It's not like the older cars. This car, this transmission is sealed for life. So there's no dipstick for us to just go and pull it out and check the quality and the level of transmission fluid. But in reality, it's more like sealed till the warranty lasts. It's not really sealed for life for as long as you're going to keep the car. So if you're going to keep the car for a long time, what I suggest you do is every 100,000 miles or 160,000 kilometers, you can flush the fluid. There is a drain plug and there is a way to fill up the fluid. There's just no dipstick. That's about the only thing. But if you really want to just flush the fluid, you can do it. So every 100,000 miles or 160,000 kilometers, just get the transmission fluid flushed and you should be all set. Now power steering fluid. There is no power steering fluid in this car because this is not a hydraulic based. The older cars used to have a hydraulic power steering system, and hydraulic systems had fluid in it, so there was a way for you to check the fluid and make sure it was topped off, good condition, all of that. But this car has electric power steering. So the way the power steering works is there's a motor that actually helps you turn the steering. So if anyone tells you you need to get your power steering fluid flushed, there is no power steering fluid in this car. It's funny, and the reason why I even mention is because in one of my previous videos for our 2017-2018 Hyundai Elantra, which again also has an electric power steering, someone mentioned that they took the car to a dealership and the dealership technician suggested that they should get a power steering fluid flush, which had made no sense to me whatsoever. And I mean, just doesn't make any sense because there is no fluid to begin with. I mean, there's no point of having fluid in it. So if you're wondering where the power steering fluid is, there is none in this car, and that's one less thing to check and worry about. And that's pretty much it.
First you have to push the hood, take load off the prop rod, slide it right and get it out of there, put it back in its place, lower the hood and then slam it shut. Hope you found it useful.